All right, in the previous lesson, we created the structure of the portfolio page, and we tried to create a style as well with the help of ChatGPT, but it didn't work as we wanted to. Now, in this lesson, we will only focus on the style. And we should remember the strategy I mentioned earlier inside this chapter. When we want to create complex stuff, it's better to focus on each part separately, because this way, with more focus on a specific part, ChatGPT can provide a better result. So here we are in the portfolio page, and let's focus on the first part, which is the title and the description under it. We will create the style of this part. If it was okay, then we will go to the next part, which is interior architecture. Okay, we'll create this part. Then if it was okay, we will go for the next part. So let's jump into ChatGPT. And here are the responses that ChatGPT provided in the previous part. And right now, I'm going to come here and continue. I'm going to share the code that we have right now for the portfolio page, okay? So ChatGPT understand what do we have right now, and then we will focus on the first part. So let's scroll down. Here we have the header, right? Right now we want to focus on the intro section. So let's come here. All right, so I wrote down the style you provided is not what I wanted. So let's focus on each part of the portfolio page separately, right? I wrote down this to tell ChatGPT that what you did in the previous step, it's not working. So we need to change that, right? We need to let ChatGPT that we need to change direction. Then I wrote down, for now, I want you to only focus on the intro section, which include a title and a description. The theme must be dark. Okay, I'm reminding ChatGPT because the style that it used previously, it's not correct. So the theme should be dark, using the color and fonts you mentioned earlier, right? Then the next thing, which is really important, is that I mentioned if you have any additional question that can help you write better codes for this part, ask me before answering this prompt, okay? Since ChatGPT didn't complete the previous task correctly, I'm offering another opportunity to ChatGPT to ask any question it has to provide a better response for us, right? So this part may help us to get a better response. Finally, I wrote down, in addition, I'm also providing the HTML and CSS code I have for the portfolio page, so you can make the changes if it is required. So let's come here, and this is my portfolio page. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to come down here, write down HTML, and oh, I pressed enter. So let's stop it and let's edit it. Come here. I'm going to write down 3 quotations, and then in the between, I'm going to paste the HTML code, right? And let's come here, write down CSS, and here again, 3 quotations, 3 quotations. Let's go up and let's go to the style.css. And here, if we look, the codes that we just brought, okay, it's after footer, right? The codes that we just imported for the portfolio page is only this part. So let's select all of it and copy and paste it here. Save and submit. All right, so the response is complete. It mentioned that you may add the following style for the introduction section. It wrote some codes, okay? And let's scroll down. And here it told us that we can keep the HTML code for the introduction section. And let's come here and copy and paste the CSS code. I think we are going to have some issues as well because ChatGPT made some changes to the whole to the main element that we have inside the page because we didn't provide the whole CSS because it was too long. I think it thinks that we don't have these codes. Okay, so as you can see, we are at the first part of the CSS file. Here we have body and some codes for it, and we have header and some codes for it. And if we scroll down, again here we have body and header, right? But I'm not gonna touch it right now. Let's save it and let's come to our page and make the changes and refresh it. So as you can see, um, the style doesn't look similar as before. And even if we come here to the previous page, as you can see, it affected here as well. The fonts is different, right? Let's go back here. So the problem, as I said, it goes back to the body and the header part. The rest should be okay, right? Okay, so we have the body, we have the header before. I think if we search for this, we should have, all right, we have one of this. Let's come here and search for this and see how many of these we have inside our CSS code. We have 4, right? So we have this before as well at the top. You see, we are doing this all over again. So we can come here, right? This part looks fine, but the header that we have, the previous one was much better, right? Because we worked on it, we spent some time creating it. So we can come here and tell ChatGPT, I mentioned that the new CSS code you wrote is better for intro section, but it also affected the header, which I didn't want to because I had other CSS codes for header which were working fine. So can you rewrite the CSS code you provided above, but only for the intro section, not the header or other general parts of the page? So let's see what ChatGPT will write for us again. So it's only, if you pay attention, it is only focusing on the intro. Now, if you scroll down, here we have intro, right? So it starts from intro here. Let's scroll down, right? So it wrote this intro part only. Let's come back here, remove the code that we added earlier, right? It was starting from here, and just paste the new code. Come here, refresh it, works much better, right? So the header is intact with the previous style that we have. The style for the intro section is looking fine. Now we need to focus on the next part, which is interior architecture. So let's come here into the close index.html. So here we are in portfolio.html. We have our intro section, which is fine. Now we need to focus on this part, okay? Now here inside the code, if you pay attention, okay, it's written down, copy and modify the dot project div, okay, for more projects, okay? So it is telling us if we want to have more project card here, let me come to this page. If we want to have more of these, if we just copy and paste this, okay, we must have more examples. So let me come here and refresh it. Okay, we have more, but this is not what I wanted. So I'm gonna go back, and I just wanted to show what ChatGPT wrote for us and what will be the result. So let's save it, and I'm gonna copy this part, okay, the interior architecture part section. Let's copy it, and let's come to ChatGPT, and let's tell ChatGPT to work on the style of this part. All right, so till now I wrote down that now let's work on the next section, which is interior architecture. The style we have right now is bad and messy. I want us to have a title for interior architecture, and then under it we must have rows of project cards. Inside each row we must have a space for 3 project card, and for now I want you to write the codes for only 3 project cards, okay? And if you have more project cards, it will go to the next row and the next row and the next row after that, okay? So inside parentheses, I mentioned that these 3 project cards will be placed side by side each other inside the first row, okay? Remember, the theme must be dark and use the colors and fonts that you offered before. Inside each project card, we must have an image, then the title of the project and a short description. Write the codes for this part and then we will improve it together. Then at the end, I mentioned that also here is the HTML and CSS code that we have for this part. So we need to come here. Let's write down HTML, colon, 3 quotations, and inside it we'll place the HTML code only for this specific section that we have. All right. Then let's come here, write down CSS, 3 quotations. Let's come here. Now, if you scroll up, this is additional. So if you don't have any coding experience, you have to copy and paste the whole code, the whole HTML code to ChatGPT so it can find the related code for the project card. But here inside the head, we have a style tag, which inside it we have CSS code. So right now this style part has some effect on our project card. If I hover the mouse, you see this part become white, right? And if I just select and remove it, let's say we don't have it at all. If I come here and refresh, if I hover the mouse on this part, now it's not changing. Only this part is changing, and that is because we have the code inside the CSS part, okay? So this was something additional. But again, if you don't have the programming knowledge, okay, this HTML and CSS programming knowledge, it's very simple. All you need to do is to just copy paste the whole code to ChatGPT and let ChatGPT decide which parts need to be changed, okay? So since I don't know which part we need to change, I'm gonna come here. This is the footer, which we did earlier for the previous page. And from here, we made some changes on the portfolio page, right? Here we have project card and the images related to that. I'm gonna select all of them until the intro section, which we made some changes right now at the beginning of this lecture. So let's come here and paste the CSS code here as well. And let's wait for the response of ChatGPT. All right, so the HTML part is ready, okay, only for this section. And if you pay attention here, we have project 1, okay, then project 2, then project 3. So I'm going to copy it, come to the HTML part, and replace it with the section that we had earlier. Okay, save it. Let's come to style. And since we don't want this project card style that we had before, I'm going to remove them all. Okay, so we have footer, then we have intro, then we are going to have the rest of the style for the project card. I think, yeah, it's complete. So let's copy it all, come here and paste it. Save it, come back to our portfolio page, refresh it, and now it looks much nicer, right? So here we require images, okay? Let's create these images using Midjourney, right? And then we will come back here and work on the title and the dummy description, okay? So let's come here to the Midjourney, and we require 3 images for the interior project, okay? So for the interior architecture. So we're gonna come here. I'm gonna create a curly brackets. Inside it, I'm gonna write down interior of a All right, so I wrote down interior of an apartment, of an office, and a villa. Okay, so we are gonna have 3 images, and then I wrote down modern, minimal with the aspect ratio of Full HD 16:9. So let's press enter and then verify it. And let's wait for the images to get ready. All right, the images are ready. So the first one here, we have the office. And from these, I'm gonna select the second one. So let's upscale it. Then we will have the villa. Okay. And from these options, I think I'm gonna go with the first one. Okay. Upscale it. And here we will have the interior design of an apartment. Okay, I'm gonna go with the second one. Let's save all these pages. And let's come here before we save it. Let's check for the name. Let's come to HTML. And here we have the interior architecture section. For the images, we have interior 1, interior 2, and interior 3. Okay, so let's just copy the image name. And here, the name must be changed to PNG. Okay, because the format of the images that we receive from Midjourney is PNG. So I'm going to save this. This is, let's say, the first one, okay, interior 1.png. Then we will have the villa, okay. Let's save it. This one will be interior 2. And then we will have the apartment, which will be interior 3, okay. So let's come here inside images, and here let's come to the address. So inside images, we have another folder called portfolio. We need to create that folder. We are in there under images. Here we have home. Let's create portfolio as well. And inside portfolio, we need to copy and paste the images we just made, right? Let me make it bigger. So these are the 3 images. And if we come here and if we refresh it, we'll see the images. Now, on the next lesson, we will work on the style of each project card separately, okay? This way it looks fine, more or less, but when we hover the mouse on it, you see the color appeared under it, the backlight, we can say it's not looking so good. We need a better project title and description, and maybe a button under it that if we click on it, it will jump to the page of this project, okay? Or maybe we can convert the image to a button. So whenever we hover the mouse on it, it make it, for example, darker a bit, and we can click on it and jump into the project page, okay? So on the next lesson, we will work on the style of each project. So let's go for the next part.